Renata, let's go.
All right, we're going to start it off in the top right-hand side to get everything going today. Our red Protoss player is MaxPax.
And in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the Polish Zerg representing Ego Esports and of course sponsored by XCOM. This is Elazer.
I think it's got to be terrifying taking on MaxPax as Elazer because there's just so many things he can throw at you. I know on this map he likes to sometimes cannon rush, sometimes he'll play them Stargate, sometimes he'll just throw down the glaives from the start of the game. It's so difficult to play against someone who will quite literally do pretty much anything out of the typical Protoss meta.
Absolutely. But I also think that Elazer is the kind of guy that's just going to do what he thinks is best. Like, I think he just already made a plan for most of the maps. And he's like, all right, if he opens Stargate, this is what I'm going to do. If he opens Twilight Robo, this is what I will do. And I don't think he's too worried about like, oh, what is MaxPax doing now? Or what is MaxPax doing 30 seconds later? I think he really strongly believes in his execution and his ability to execute the builds that he loves to the highest level. And that is going to be good enough. I am a little bit worried that we'll see at least one game where Elazer makes a few drones too many and MaxPax actually made a few less probes than Elazer expected and a bunch of Adept Shade to the other side of the map and are going to kill Elazer because he's not notoriously known for his Overlord scouting into the main base, is he now?
No, it's one of the things we see him maybe be caught off guard more so than anyone else. I mean, that map he lost against Skillers the other day was not quite adept, but it was a lot of early aggression that he just wasn't really ready for at all. So,
the Marjorie, right?
Sorry. Yeah. The good old classic charge lots.
The Marjorie build. Haven't seen it in a while because it's not very good anymore. But then I guess if you want to bust it out on one map, maybe the tiniest map in the map pool is not a bad one to go for. When I saw Elazer's drone count, like 40 plus, I was doing something on the side. Then I saw a few more drones on the production tab, and I'm like, all right, I'm pretty sure this game is over. Because I remember the Zerg saying, like, this build is really hard to beat, it's really tough. And then, you know, they kind of figured it out. What if we just make roaches a little bit earlier? Because this build is very all-in. And then, you know, it was fine. But that was definitely not entering the 40s. That's all I remember.
No, absolutely not. As it is going to be that Twilight Council here to start off with for MaxPax. So he is going to go for this glaives-based opening. And, well, I assume glaives-based, unless he's going to really pull something crazy out like a Dark Shrine and an Archon drop. But that's not really something we've seen much of as of late, Robbie.
No, I think you're right. It's probably going to be 4 gateways, Adepts with Resonating Glaives, and a War Prism. And then it's obviously important for Elazer to keep track of that Prism. He does still have that Overlord lurking around. As we're going to just keep a close eye on everything that Elazer is doing on his side of the map. That's the most important. It's okay to make a couple drones early on. You need these drones. You obviously don't want to start building Zerglings now, because then you're crippling yourself and the attack is already a success before it even started. But it is important that we slap down a Roach Warren in the near future.
Yeah, I'd say about 30 seconds more, and then you need that to be starting. Otherwise, this is going to hurt, and especially because I feel like recently we've seen a little bit of kind of action from MaxPax where sometimes he's shown up with these Adept attacks when he has 10 Adepts at like 435 instead of just 8 Adepts at like 430. And it's just those couple extra Adepts can be scary, and yeah, Elazer dropping down a Spore, that ain't going to help him.
Nope, not at all. There is a Roach Warren going down, and I guess a single Spore is not the biggest of deals, but it's the little things that make the difference on the very highest level, and this is the highest level. Elazer knows it. MaxPax is going to warp in all his Adepts. I'm actually shocked there was not a Zergling there to see it, because then you could 100% confirm that this is happening. I guess he now already knows because the Overlord is also entering the main base. Yeah, the Adepts are making their way to the other side of the map, and Waddy, that Roach Warren is not done yet. So we're going to deal with the first wave with Zerglings only. Can work, but sometimes also backfires.
But MaxPax has messed up already. He's supply blocked. He can only warp in 2 of his 4 Adepts, so this is just going to be 8 Adepts when it could have been 10, and it could have been that extra little bit of power. It's still good. He will still get to start fighting these Queens, but just should have been that little bit better.
Yep, no, I'm totally with you. I think with 2 extra Adepts there, he can actually just cancel that Shade and stay on top of the Queens, and then instead of 1 Queen, maybe we can get 2 or 3 Queens. Good catch on that supply block. The 54 out of 54, we've all been there. Oh, man. he really missed an opportunity there. Now, of course, this is not necessarily over yet. There is still potential for Adepts. Elazer still needs to do a good job in having all his units in the right position. Adepts will go for the queens. That is a second queen that goes down. Now we're shading into the main base, but it feels like that is a nice mix between Lynx, roaches, queens. Not too many roaches, but I think pretty good defense in the end by Elazer.
Yeah, a couple of Adepts tried to warp in the main as well, was just trying to split the attention up, but this gets cleaned up with relative ease. And from here, MaxPax isn't really set up to go anywhere, right? He starts up an Immortal now, and typically after this, I know he likes to go for a lot of Immortal Adept attacks, but I just don't know if that works. After this opening is very much so just not done enough. So in this case, may just may just be trying to be defensive, trying to stay alive from what could be a potential counterattack.
I like that we're getting an observer to the other side of the map, because this is where normally it's a little bit hard for the Protoss to figure out, is the Zerg sticking around or not, because there are moments where you need that War Prism at home. Elazer's lair is obviously quite late, and he just starts it now. It's a 6-minute lair. Sure, made a lot of units, but that's still a little bit later than what I'm used to, Wardy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be quite a while until he gets anything meaningful up in this game, right? Road speed won't be here until at least the 8-minute marker, and it just gives you a long, long time as MaxPax where maybe you don't really have to worry about very much at all. So, yeah, maybe gives him some freedom to get back up and running. And I mean, really, he's just missing tech though, right? Like, he's not doing anything to tech up. He's just building these 2 Immortals. There's the Forge. I'd love to see what he wants to go for off that Twilight Council next. If he wants to go for Charge, or if he does maybe just want to go into Blink, because sometimes he likes that Blink Disruptor style in the mid-game.
You know what I wouldn't hate if this prism would actually head to the bottom right side. MaxPax knows that Elazer hasn't taken the triangle expand, so there is a very good chance there's a hatchery going up in the bottom right. But yeah, we know that a couple of roaches will have a hard time getting on top of 2 Immortals. As the Adepts are making their way to the other side of the map too. This is kind of cool. It's like a little follow-up attack. The roach count is very high though, but we know what Immortals and War Prisms are capable of.
Yep, a lot of micro potential here. Very difficult for these Immortals to ever get cleaned out. And with these Adepts supporting, I like this a lot from MaxPax, right? It's not fully committed. He's got a plan behind it. He added that Forge. Now he starts Blink. But it's going to put on some good damage. It's going to scare Elazer. Elazer's just making purely units for a while. And it's going to be, another drone cut that's just going to help MaxPax out in the long run. And he's going to get some drone kills on top of it.
Yep. The only thing I'm a bit sad about is that he didn't try to go to that bottom right side once, because 2 Immortals and then even a couple of Zealots there to put some extra DPS on that hatchery. I think it could have made a difference. In the end, well done there by Elazer, because that were once more a lot of Adepts. Now in grand total, 25 Adepts have gone down in a 8-minute game, and only 8 drones have gone down. So I think Elazer is going to be quite satisfied with his defense for most of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's winning this game at this point.
No, a lot of the time he's not exactly been on like a massive worker lead, right? It's not like he's been massively ahead on economy this game. So while not a lot of drones went down, he hasn't still been kind of taking too much advantage of it all. And I feel like, MaxPax is getting to his most dangerous stage. I know he loves this Blink Stalker Disruptor style, right? And, Elazer is very much so stuck on roaches, probably Ravages and Lings. I mean, Disruptors are ideal against this, especially if that composition gets aggressive. Disruptors are just so good defensively. It might be very tough for Elazer here.
Elazer is going to get a really good economy now, finally, though, as he's making his way up to 85 drones. I think it's very important for MaxPax to not move out too early, right? Like, it's always a bit scary to just sit at home against a Zerg that has been cranking out those drones, and they are outmining you. But if you lose your robo units once, and you're working with a single robo setup, like MaxPax can make one move out, but that move out cannot fail. Because if it fails, I think the entire game fails.
Yep, you've got to be very, very careful with it. Is the double disruptor drop going to move onto the map and see if he can just catch a few units here, there, or anywhere? There's obviously Elazer trying to take up himself, that balance speed coming through, and the Hive as well, just slowly adding to this composition, slowly improving on what he originally had, which is only going to turn out to be a positive, right there way to do things.
This is kind of cool. Elazer is sending 2 armies to the other side of the map, and I think he's going to try to make his way into, as that first Nova kills 5 drones, into the natural. An overcharge would be very useful here, because you don't really want to open the floodgates. A couple force fields will get the job done too. Whereas that War Prism made it all the way home. It's going to try to land maybe a Nova on these Disruptors. We know that MaxPax is looking for it, sends out a Nova. Wow, that's a money shot if I've seen one, Wadi. That's 3 Ravages and 2 Roaches, I believe. Well done by MaxPax.
Beautiful little bit of extra value coming out of this attack, right? Because, you know, the defense was good, but what's better than a defense? Actually getting value out of defending, and that wasn't really what he had. He kind of turned it around without killing anything, but the Disruptor capitalizes on Elazer's attack here. So nicely done. Going to get a couple more drones now, and just keeping this Prism active as he continues to build that Colossus back at home, which is obviously a bit of a switch up. So we're going to go fully into those Colossi now with the Blink Stalkers, and meanwhile Elazer just building into that Spire and still just otherwise on this Lingbane Roach.
Nice, a little bit of value right out of the War Prism and Res. It's not much, but it's very annoying. You look at the supplies though, and it's like 198 against 139. It's still that single robo setup. Of course, MaxPax can just make this army stronger when he starts moving out by adding in a few more gateway units. I'm a little bit worried, Wardy. If he loses his army, the game is absolutely over. Elazer is going to try to prevent this Nexus from going up in the top left side. And look at the mini-map. MaxPax is making his way all the way back home, but that's still not going to be in time to save this.
I know. The best he can hope for here is maybe cuts off that army and then maybe you try and get a counterattack off, right? But Elazer actually has a pretty good amount of money to rebuild with, so he's just going to try and do as much as he can. Nice drone kills. Once again, 10 more workers. Just putting a little bit of a hit on that Elazer economy, and some of that money now has to be respent on drones. But look at what Elazer's doing as well. This run by with these Banelings going to come on through, looking for some probes, and behind all of this, Roddy, a Greater Spire as well. So he really has a much longer term plan for this game.
Yep, couple decent force fields. Most importantly for MaxPax is that he's keeping the natural safe. Once this starts going on, but then Zerglings and Roaches will also show up in your main and natural, we know that it's the beginning of the end because the Zerg player can do this all day. MaxPax simply can't. If you look at the income advantage at this point, this is outrageous. It's like a 2,000 resources advantage per minute. MaxPax really, oh my goodness, he gets a couple of big Novas, 10 drones and also a couple Ravages. But yeah, once again, 2,000 resources per minute, Wardy. Elazer can do this all day, and MaxPax needs to come up with a plan to either get up to 4 bases or get ready to deal with Viper Broodlord, because that is what we're heading into.
Yeah, it's really going to be tough, right? Because that 4th base has just been denied for him not once but twice now, and you just need it. And if you don't get there, this game is pretty much over. And even if you do get there, Elazer's obviously bought a lot of time to improve his army composition as well, so it still ain't going to be easy. And can you imagine what this game would look like if MaxPax had not just had all of these incredible Novas? Because he's shut down so many workers with this at that stage.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much more out of control this could have been.
There's another Baneling run by him. +2 is almost done, not quite. I would have preferred to see Elazer wait for +2. I mean, 7 seconds, that would have been a lot of dead probes, but maybe these probes are still going to fall against the Zergling follow-up. Seems a little bit silly for me to hit right before +2, but I guess Elazer is just trying to buy some time for his defenses to get in the right place.
He's making a lot more lings again, Roddy. He's just going to keep on throwing units over at MaxPax again and again, apparently, as this time the units are quick to get on top of the Prism. No chance to get those Disruptors out. And MaxPax is looking to push and make a fight happen here, which is not a bad idea. Oh my goodness, that first Disruptor shot looks scary. Second one connects decently as well. At least picks up a Ravager, but 16 probes going down as we continue to see a few more units across the map. And now we do have a couple force fields in play, though. I mean, MaxPax's army is terrifying, but there's only ever going to be this one army and nothing to replace it.
But can Elazer take down this one army? I'm starting to have a hard time believing that that's going to be the case. I mean, the Banelings are really going to have to come in from every angle. The Vipers are exposed. Elazer loses one of them full on energy. The second one lost a lot of HP there too. I look at this Protoss army, and I think this Protoss army is good enough to win the fight not once, but twice.
Yeah, those couple Colossi do get dragged in. The Disruptors are going to land perfectly on the Ravagers, Roddy. How many times have they connected this game? The problem for Elazer
for you. It's, and I'm not making up, 59 kills on these 2 Disruptors, and most of those were drones and Roaches. MaxPax knows that he needs more though. Now Roaches come in from every angle. It's really important to keep the Immortals alive. I know that sounds silly, but you want to keep that consistent firepower as the Disruptors shine again. It's ridiculous. Over 74 kills on these 2, but the Roaches are coming in from every angle, and it seems like Elazer will still be able to clean this army up. Not before losing 20 drones though.
Yeah, but obviously MaxPax's economy is also shattered at home. Only 40 workers for him. A Disruptor shot flies and is not going to connect. It goes down. Those Hero Disruptors did so much. This will not be enough, and Elazer is going to take home game number 1, but this was... I mean, it felt like with the way Elazer was playing, Roddy, it maybe should have been a much simpler, affair. But at the end of the day, MaxPax made it as complicated as possible. And I kind of wonder, you know, that second Viper that just survived, if that went down and you don't have double abduct to get rid of those two Colossi quickly, maybe that just changes this game. If those two Colossi are alive for the reinforcements, super close game.
No, it really was. It came down to the wire, because at the end of this game, the army value of MaxPax was almost 4,000 resources higher. And it's not like Elazer had the godlike Zerg units. No, there were a lot of basic, simple units, and it's the reinforcements that get the job done. The Viper is a good point, and I think it would have changed the fight dramatically. What if instead of after we won that fight and the fight was taking place, what if MaxPax takes like a split second to regroup himself? Because right now he was standing in the middle of 5 Zerg bases, which means that the units come in from every angle, but they will actually get on top of the targets. It maybe would have been okay to just walk a little bit towards the top, so you know at least where the units are coming from, and he could have positioned those key robo units a little bit better. Because he was 1 or 2 more fantastic Novas away from actually getting the job done and keeping that final Colossus safe and keeping those last 2 Immortals safe.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I guess part of that's almost the desperation that Elazer put on MaxPax as well, though, right? Because MaxPax knows he's got no 4th base, he's got no economy basically at home. In his mind, it was just all go, go, and go, and that makes, you know, it difficult to make that right decision, which it might have been to just take a few more moments about it.
At first, I was like, are those 69? I was like, no, I can't do math. It's 25 plus 34, but then they got 2 more fantastic Novas, and they got a lot of additional Ravagers. It was a lot of value out of just 2 simple Disruptors, but in the end, Elazer with all his reinforcements, and those drones really helping out too, because if it's just Roaches and Zerglings coming in against a Colossus that's cleaning up the links, and the Stalkers that are putting a number on those Roaches, it becomes very close. But drones are, in a weird way, kind of good against Stalkers, because it takes Stalkers a little while to kill those workers, and they obviously don't deal the double damage they do against Roaches. Or not double damage, but the bonus damage. Really close game, exactly what we hoped for, exactly what we expected. Already excited for the rest of this best of 5.
Yeah, it really sets a good precedent for everything else we've got coming up, of course. That was just game 1. Best of 5s means we get plenty of games in each of these series. And game number 2 is about to begin. We're diving on into 2,000 atmospheres, going underwater for our second game of this series. As we're going to kick it off to the bottom left-hand side with the red Protoss player from Storm Gaming. This is MaxPax.
And in the top right side, we're looking at the main base of the Polish Zerg, who's taken a 1-0 lead with a great Aspire that he never used. It's Elazer.
Obviously added to it as well, right? All that investment into tech that never actually saw the light of day. And so just money that wasn't really there for Elazer to rebuild with, and made it even closer.
Just the macro. Macro really got it done, taking all those bases. MaxPax not having something like a Dark Shrine to maybe prevent a certain hatchery from going up for a couple of seconds, or at least put some multi-prong pressure. It was all about that Prism, and that Prism was finding a lot of success. And at one point, I took a look at the units lost resource tab. It was MaxPax around 5,000, Elazer around 11,000. But it's not a big deal if you're mining 2,000 or 2,400 resources a minute more, and that goes on for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, right? Who cares that you're down 6k in resources? You still have a bigger army, and you're still mining more.
Absolutely. That's the way that StarCraft works. It's not just about how well you trade, it's about the economy behind it too. It's something we don't talk about as much in PvZ, but it's definitely something we talk about all the time in like Terran versus Zerg, right? That efficiency versus the economy that the Zerg is able to hold. It's always a bit of a game changer.
Got so close. It's actually unbelievable how close that game became, because at one point it looks hopeless, right? It's like 3 bases against 6 bases. And you look at the armies and you're like, I actually think this army is good enough to not just win the fight once, but to win the fight twice. Especially if the War Prism survives. And the Stalker's blinking forward. He probably just A-move and maybe did some overkill on one of the Vipers. Because I think if you would have 2 groups of Stalkers there, I think you get the double kill on those 2 Vipers. And if you then don't get the Abducts on the Colossus, well, even the force fields are going to be a nightmare to deal with.
Yep, no, absolutely. It was there was a lot going on in that very short moment, and a couple moments before that fight that could have changed everything. So, yeah, It really, like I say, an excellent game, right? When you've got so many things to go back and to think about and to talk on afterwards. And there's obviously this game just taking a moment or two to get going, very regular, and continues to be very regular with a Stargate opening for MaxPax. Not surprising to see him go for a little bit of a change of pace.
Maybe expecting a double Stargate. I feel like MaxPax is the one who started a couple of the very creative strategies we've seen on this map, where it's not necessarily the carrier opening, but sometimes even the Tempest opening, right? Yep. I think back of that build DNS used on this map. I was like, man, that build's so cool. He's like, oh yeah, I stole it from MaxPax reporting. I don't know who started it first, but you know, some of these guys were finding a lot of success with it. The Adept, I actually think could have gotten 2 drone kills there, or at least could have gotten 1 more shot off, but MaxPax misclicked for a split second.
A little unfortunate, but yeah, no, that double Stargate fleet beacon, and you know, I used to love the carrier version of it, but yeah, the Tempest one has been very popular here because there's lots of dead airspace. You can get a crazy amount of harassment out, and it actually transitions pretty well also. So we have seen a fair share of that, and 2,000 atmospheres really is the map for it. So if MaxPax truly believes in his build, this would be the time to bring it out. We'll find out soon, Roddy, as this Overlord goes down. MaxPax is going to be fairly free to build up in his main base without being figured out and scouted.
Yeah, when that Overlord was in range, he queued up the Oracle. I don't know if Elazer saw that Oracle. Yep, Elazer actually saw that Oracle being built. If you take a look at the vision of Elazer, sees an Oracle. Oracle gets cancelled as soon as the Overlord dies, and that's when MaxPax drops the Fleet Beacon and the double Stargate. I like it, Waddy. We'll see what he actually makes out of it. One thing I'm a little bit concerned by, and this is very basic thinking by me, if Elazer expands first at the triangle instead of his natural, this just gives him more of an invitation to go for one of these queen attacks. And I don't care if it's the German taxi or the Munich subway or the Warsaw subway or Munich metro. I don't know how they call it, Waddy. The Soul Stroll. There's so many variations of it. But I think this just makes it even more tempting for Elazer to get queens to the other side of the map, which on one hand I don't think is great against Tempest openings, but it's just the numbers, right? Like, you know that the Tempests are good against the queens, but they are not good against the roaches. And it's nice if you can kill the queens, but if there are then 20 roaches ravaging your economy, it does still become very difficult to hold.
Absolutely, something you got to be very careful of, you know, as MaxPax here, as he's, by the way, once again 70 over 70 just as Stargates are finishing producing. A little bit of a supply block again, going to slow him down on maybe that second set of Stargate units, and if you do get attacked, that would make all the difference as well. So definitely seems like MaxPax is a little shaky on the macro because it's a couple key moments that he's been, you know, hitting those supply blocks in.
Yep, and the worst part about it was that he was actually still chrono boosting that Stargate that was supply blocked, as these two Adepts will try to find their way into the natural. Good defense by Elazer, doesn't lose a single drone. These are the things that drive Flawless players nuts, by the way, Waddy. You chrono boost out a Stargate, your Tempest pops, and then you realize you're supply blocked. You don't just have to wait for those extra Void Rays, you now also have to wait for your chrono boost to basically just expire, because by the time you're finally on supply block, chrono is no longer active, and it's the little things that really make a big difference.
Yep. As the Tempest comes in and shoots down a few of those initial drones, this is what this build is all about, is you see the Spire starting, Flux Veins on the way, Void's coming up. I mean, everyone, you know, what MaxPax is doing is the right thing. He's heading in the right direction for what Elazer wants to do against this. Let's see if he can make it work out. Let's see if this Tempest Harass can do enough at the end of the day.
I feel like it's already finding some good success, and now it gets a perfect scout off too on the Spire. You're not going to kill the Spire, guys. Some people might be like, wouldn't that be a good idea? No, Tempest DPS simply not high enough. You'll do some damage on it, but it will still finish up. Then the Zerg just brings the Queens over, drops the Transfuser too. This damage is adding up though, and this is very important because MaxPax is non-stop chrono boosting out Void Rays at home. These Void Rays are now making their way towards this fort base. Queens are gonna try to save it. MaxPax having none of it. He gets the kill. What a start by MaxiPaxi. My goodness.
Man, I was about to say, like, oh, I feel like these Tempests are doing way more than I usually see them do. It looks great from MaxPax. And then you kill the fourth base as well. I mean, that's just a massive improvement on this game, and that's going to put Elazer in a really tough position where, well, he's just going to be behind from where he wants to be big time. 16 workers killed, now 17 overall in this game, and man, he's building Corruptors into Void Rays. It is not looking good.
These Void Rays want more, and these Void Rays can actually start taking the fight against a couple of these queens. Yep, that's one queen by itself. That's gonna fall very quickly. Now we're gonna go for the third base. We already got to cancel on the fourth. There's a lot of energy on some of these other queens. Elazer is not using it yet. Elazer is waiting for the very last moment, but he's still gonna end up losing the hatchery. And there is one more Tempest, and Elazer will just tap out. Does not wanna be a 2-base Zerg. My goodness. What a masterclass by the young Dane, Marty.
I mean, what a way for things to just get out of control. And, you know, those voids, they were in target fire. They were just none of them dying. So you don't get anything out of your third base going down. And Elazer just knows you don't fight out of that position. You'll have to think over that one over the next couple of minutes, as we'll take a quick break and come straight back with game number 3. Welcome back, everybody, as we're obviously stuck in this series, 1-1, tied up, and it's exciting to get back into it, Roddy, because 2 games so far, which has been pretty excellent. The first because it was just straight up so close, and the second because you just don't usually see the Zerg just die to that build.
No. And of course, Elazer could have rebuilt that hatchery, and then he could have fired up a couple of extra corruptors, and he would have eventually gotten that game going. But he just said, enough is enough, I'm way too far behind, and I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of melting my corruptors with your golden armada. Now let's see what game 3 has in store for us, as we have hopped into Beckett Industries, the shortest map of them all. In the top right side, the Zerg. We're all tied up. It's Elazer.
Down in the bottom left-hand side, our red Protoss player from Storm Gaming, it's MaxPax.
I wonder. We have seen Mana be very aggressive on this map a couple of times, where we would even go with the double gate opening, not because we have to, but just because we want to. Get a couple of adepts out and expand a bit later, and then follow it up with resonating glaive adepts. And you don't even need I remember that Rainer was here and he played one game against Mana on this map. And Rainer's like, what the hell, man? Like, these adepts, they just kept coming. And I was like, where the hell is the proxy pylon? Or does he have a robo somehow this quick? And he's like, I look at the replay. He's just warping them in at home. One shade. And they were in my natural. He's like, one shade, Roddy. I was like, I know. It's a very short map. So, yeah, you got to be very careful about those kind of things if you are a Elazer heading into this one.
Yep, of course, look the other way around too. If your scout isn't on top of things here, has MaxPax, then it's very quick and easy for Elazer to maybe sneak up a roach drone, and then, you know, before you know it, there's roaches in your natural. It feels like they're just spawning there as well. So both sides have to be that a little bit cautious, but I do agree. I think there's been quite a few little builds that we've seen on this map. I know some players were going for some like early kind of 3-unit pressure. You know, you build like 3 gateway units and you just sort of go and poke around, because again, they just get across so early and so fast that they're just so successful compared to usual.
Yep, and if you can just get a couple swipes off on a queen with a zealot, then you can get the ball rolling real quick, because then Zerglings without speed don't really stand much of a chance. None of that, however, is happening here. Everything is actually looking somewhat normal. I like the fact that you brought up the roaches running to the other side of the map. That's what Cero did, right, on this map against MaxPax? Yeah, because MaxPax lost his scouting probe, poor guy.
Yeah. Moment that probe goes down, you just have no idea what's going to happen, right? The adept shows up and the first roach is already in the first acceleration zone. It's doesn't give you much time to prepare against it.
You have no idea how many games in my life I've lost against that build, mate. But that was mostly not even because I lost my probe, but it's because I'm a lazy scouter. I'm like, oh yeah, hatch for us, everything is fine. Send the probe to Zelnaga Watchtower. When first Phoenix on the way, roaches show up. You're like, what? Again? Why does nobody want to play a nice game? And I'm like, well, my definition of a nice game is me having a lot of Phoenixes and them not having any anti-air body. I might be slightly biased in the matter. These adepts have a lot of potential here. I like that move by Elazer. Well done.
Yep, just going to minimize what could have been a lot of damage. Now, one drone goes down, a couple of lings being fought as well. Adepts shade out, and they do get home alive, which is a benefit for MaxPax. Nice to keep those alive. Yeah, not bad damage done as he has gone into it. While I cancel, this is going to be a Glaives attempt once again. Last time around felt like Glaives didn't really fall short, but it wasn't anything spectacular.
Uh-oh. He needs to fix one of his probes. His probe is mining in a very awkward way. Okay, he has fixed it. No, but you mentioned that supply block that I missed, and that was a big deal. Because I think if he had those extra adepts, Wardy, he would have been able to just stay on top of the queens. And there is nothing that a Zerg player hates more than seeing the shade get cancelled. All of the units are in the main base, and then the queens start falling like dominoes. And this time MaxPax already building one extra pylon, but he had that one too. It was 54 out of 54 back then. There's a lot of potential, man, because this is just going to hit so much quicker than it is going to hit on any other map. And I even felt the Roach Warren was late on Jagannatha. This is going to, I mean, he laces 38 rounds, which should be enough. He cannot make any errors against this.
I mean, it's still a question of the Roach Roar. The Adept warping will happen before the Roach Roar is done. So there is going to be a good amount of Adepts in a little while you're waiting on Roaches. And then you've got to gather those Roaches up as well. They've got to catch up to where the Adepts are shading to. So we'll see if Elazer can deal with this as Glaive is about to be finished up. Here comes the additional warping. And get this ready to start as one Adept goes warping in back at home just to help against the counter attack. And that's actually going to be exactly what's needed.
Yeah, I still think this is going to be so hard for Elazer. The Adept's actually going to shade all the way into the main base. Roaches are in production, but not out yet. I think MaxPax lost a little bit of focus dealing with that one silly Zergling that's running around in his main. But this is already finding damage. It's already doing more damage than it did before. And I think that this shade is going to finish up too. Hold position, MaxPax. A little bit late on that one, but it's a ridiculous amount of damage already, Waddy.
Yeah, a few new Adepts just shaded up toward the main. Fortunately, there are some units on top of those already, but as they chase that down, it kind of gives freedom to these Adepts on the low ground. Those Adepts will go down. These Adepts shade into the natural expansion, and we just continue to pick away at Zerglings. No further drones going down, at least. And Elazer looking as though he's starting to get a handle on this, and will start to stop it from happening any further, but this is the kind of damage where MaxPax this time around, as he makes Immortals, is very likely to really commit to just Adept, Immortal, and come and kill you.
Yep, but we also know that just because the big attack is over, that doesn't mean that Elazer is done losing drones, right? It's very difficult to keep this Prism at bay. There aren't too many queens. Some of the queens are low on HP. It's almost impossible not to take any additional follow-up damage. And yeah, the power of adepts is you don't need 12 adepts to kill workers, Waddy. 2 adepts will also one-shot workers. You can already see that follow-up damage I was talking about. That queen is so low, I would have gone for that, but
yeah.
Really.
I've been looking at that queen for a little while, and I thought so too. But you know, these are always the great ideas we have, and then we end up with 0 adepts at the end of the day. Right?
That queen has also been noticing you, noticing her, Waddy. Don't worry.
A few more lings go down as well, and especially if you're going to follow up with more adepts, these immortals. Well, you know, every ling you kill off is just one less unit that Elazer has defensively here.
And let's not forget that it's not like Elazer's had the economy to fire up that lair. We said the 6-minute lair felt a little bit late. We're now 6 minutes and 40 seconds in. The good news is that you can always morph your roaches into ravages, even without a lair. The bad news is the rest of the army of Elazer is going to be so underwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if, you know, at this point, if MaxPax doesn't even attack, it doesn't even really matter, right? He just sort of builds up and he will continue through and probably look pretty good in the long run kind of game as well, because yeah, there is no lair. You're not going to have any tech here for a very long time as Elazer. So MaxPax will continue to take leads. Adept shade across, small lings and Elazer's down in drones. Oh yeah, here we go.
This is gonna win it, isn't it? This army seems unstoppable to me. As long as these immortals are able to gun down the roaches, I think that this army is just unkillable. MaxPax is actually gonna split up the army. He's gonna shade all of his adepts. It's very important he doesn't make a mistake with the War Prism, and that he doesn't. And look at these adepts. It's outrageous, buddy. This should be illegal.
For a moment, I thought that Prism might go down, but no, he pulls it back away from the queens again, keeps them going. I mean, all of this is just lost mine time as well, right? Drones not mined from the main base. Now Immortals are picking off these queens as well, and finally some lings are going to show up. I do feel like splitting it up maybe actually weakened this attack more than strengthening it, but...
That was the last queen. There are 0 queens on the map at this point.
Well, have fun making units, Elazer. Especially when you're trying to make like Ling Roach and you need lava. The lings. Yeah. That's pretty rough.
It's a massive series, of course, here in the playoffs with the DreamHack StarCraft 2 Masters Summer, so players in general are not going to leave early. I know that maybe the 2K atmosphere seemed a bit early, but that was an outrageous amount of damage. Elazer knows that the writing is on the wall for this one, but he's still going to try to make some magic happen. And you know, with roaches, with their speed upgrade, Wardy, sometimes they suddenly get on top of the stalkers, right? And then Zerglings get on top of an immortal. But with slow roaches, it's just pretty much impossible. You're not even allowed to dream about it.
I know, it just feels like such an unlikely circumstance. Here we go, we're going to attempt to break on through. Batteries already off to the top side of this Nexus, so all you have to do is get a little bit to the north here and life will be a little bit easier for you as MaxPax Moles are taking a bit of damage, but it's hard to even get excited when it looks momentarily decent because you just know there's so much more coming in from MaxPax compared to what Elazer has, and Elazer knows that as well. MaxPax will get game 3 and is going to be the player to get the first shot at winning this series.
This time we weren't supply blocked. This time it was 10 adepts, or well, 9 adepts and 1 adept dealing with a couple of Zerglings at home, and it just found a lot of damage immediately. And if you really want to be critical, I think there were moments where it could have been even a bit more. I think 1 or 2 of the shades, especially when he had all the adepts at the third and he shaded into the natural, and the other 4, they were kind of shading at the same time, so the units were already there, but MaxPax found a ridiculous amount of damage, and Elazer just didn't have the right amount of units.
Yep. Very, very well said. No, I really still think the shades around of the adepts at the end when the immortals were there. I feel like you could have probably just attacked and probably just done even more damage and just win the game even more easy. Maybe trying to be a bit too fancy, but you know what? In this case, it just didn't matter. And MaxPax does get that map advantage in the series with Lightshade coming up next, Roddy. And another map which can be a bit shorter, can be a bit aggressive. One you may be worried about something aggressive happening on, or do you think we get something a bit longer?
I think it depends a little bit on what Elazer sees in the beginning, right? Maybe if he sees a Stargate, and especially if he would get the confirmation it's a double Stargate, I believe Miko will do what he does best, and that is indeed get all those units to the other side of the map as quickly as possible, whether it's through a metro or a subway or a taxi, or we just walk them. But if it's against the Dark Templar openings, you don't really want to do that too early, right? Because you need a lair, you need overseers. If you don't have overseers, your push is just going to fall flat on its face. So I think it comes down a lot to what MaxPax shows Elazer. Yeah, it's also a bit risky because with your tournament live on the line, like attacking with these queens, sometimes it can feel very slow. And MaxPax is also very good in getting disruptors out early on. And it's pretty much impossible, of course, if your roaches don't have a lot of upgrades or you're just standing there with a lot of units into batteries and cannons to avoid those novas. I don't know. I think it really comes down to what MaxPax decides to go for. If it's a Stargate opener, let's see where we take it. If it's double Stargate, then I think we'll see feisty Elazer.
All right, so kind of on MaxPax to set the tone for the game. Let's find out what he wants to play. As we go on into Light Shade, I can hear the little beeping of entering the game behind us, Roddy, so we really are not far away from getting into this. We'll be able to start this one off and go. See if MaxPax can advance past this top 8 of the tournament into top 6. Yeah, and then he's a match away from what? Season finals as well? I mean, that would be
wow,
beyond expectations almost, right?
Yeah. I haven't been on the show in so long, Wardy. They only used me in the first week. I haven't been thinking about those season finals. But you're right, guys. It's not all about who wins this tournament. The top 4 of the European region also qualifies for the season finals, where we already have Probe and Nice, and then of course the Koreans that were amazing in the GSL. So Maru, Trap, Dream, Zest, Innovation, and I'm forgetting one. Rogue, right?
Rogue.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's going to be one hell of a tournament, and that is happening at the start of July, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a little bit different usually. Usually we have it next week, but changing up a little bit this year, which I like, you know, having a bit of a break before the season finals. Spreads out a bit more.
Gives players some time to prepare as well. We like that.
Yeah. All right, well, as we get into game number 4 in the top left-hand side from XCOM Argo, it is our Blue Zerg player, Elazer.
Forgot that we had to do intros. I was excited about the season 5. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of the Young Dane that's representing Storm Gaming, up to one away from top 6 in the region. It's MaxPax. So crazy how MaxPax played DreamHack twice, I believe, last year, right? I think he was too young for the first season, but then he was old enough to participate in, I guess, fall and winter. 2 appearances, 2 times made it through the qualifiers, made it into the main event, but in the group stages, he just kind of got bopped, right? It was like a 2-5 score or something among those lines. It was like, he's good, but he's not quite there yet. If you talk about improvement, man, over 6-7 months, like how many players have gone from 2-5 to 6-1, Waddy? Like, that's ridiculous.
6-1, and then very impressive in the playoffs as well, right? I know he dropped down from the winner bracket, but he looked so good in the lower bracket match, right? So yeah, absolutely. You know, he almost like a different player, really. I think that's actually a pretty good summary of MaxPax this year. He just looks like he has leveled up. He plays so differently to last year. It just feels like he's more confident almost as well, and I think that's a big thing too.
Last year it was a lot about MaxPax was good as long as his crazy openings made the games very weird and wild and everything was going according to plan. And the moment that he was forced to play different, he was all right, but he wasn't all that. And this year just really feels that he has improved tremendously when it comes to playing normal. But then he still has that MaxPax element. He can still cannon rush in PvPs and Nightmare. He likes to go for his 1 gate fast expanse, and in just PvZ, I think he looks pretty damn solid.
Yeah, I think so too, as a couple of gateways continue to build from MaxPax. As we get this game set up, it's, solid definitely has been a thing. I'm looking, there's no tech, right? It's just 2 more gates. This is going to be really impressive, Roddy.
Yep, I mean, it was already a little bit weird, of course, that we had a Zealot run to the other side of the map. And this can get a little bit awkward, but good save there with the Shade and the Shield Battery. Oh, this is an odd opening. We know that MaxPax sometimes has like these weird builds where he just builds a pylon and some shield batteries, but Frigate, did he see something that wasn't there? Like, obviously Elazer did expand towards the center, but this, like, to me is something I would do if I'm convinced that my opponent is Roach Ling all-inning, right? Of 23 or 21 drones. Then I would open up 3 gates. I don't really see how it's good besides that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I kind of thought there might be something of an attack joined up with it, but it really hasn't been that at all. And now we just tech, and it doesn't quite add up, does it?
He did force out, of course, quite a few Zerglings, so he did slow down the economy of Elazer, but 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the game is often where things start to get a little bit closer in the worker department. Elazer is already a 5-worker lead, or still a 5-worker lead, I should say. Yeah, no, this is not how things look normally, economically. And it will all come down to the adepts, but look how quick the Roach one is this game, Marty, compared to the previous games where it felt that the Prism and the adepts with glaives were on the edge of creep, and then the Roach one was like 70-80% done.
Yeah, I mean, it's just glaives is not just that much later, right? It just, nothing's really adding up here. It is not looking good at all. There's lots of units on the way out from the Elazer, and he's even got a counterattack set up. Going to force a couple units back at home already. Well, I guess you don't mind too much as MaxPax because your glaives ain't done, so you're not even looking to fight just yet.
Nope. Yeah, I don't really see this going anywhere for MaxPax. Not at this moment, at least. Now, of course, if he just keeps forcing out units, he is keeping the economy in check. And Elazer is now going to drop Spore Crawlers because he's like, all right, this is going way too good. Where's that Dark Shrine? We know it's finishing up. You got to have something coming because there's no way it's supposed to be this easy. At this point, it really has been that easy. Now, it is important not to get too overconfident and think that the adepts won't come anymore, because then they can still find a lot of damage. Just right now, not looking all that pretty for MaxPax.
No, it isn't. Let's see what we can do. As he saw a Dark Shrine behind this as well, which I kind of like because it feels like the game is not quite going your way. So Dark Shrine not only might give you a way to deal some damage if nothing else works, but it might also just keep you safe for a little bit longer in case Elazer tries to set up an attack.
The adept count is pretty high now, buddy. A couple of Zerglings are on the other side of the map. Elazer has gone into droning. I think this first queen is in danger, but Elazer does a good job in saving it. I wonder if he's going to let the Shade finish up. The answer is no, he does not. I almost felt like if there was a moment... Okay, now we're going to warp in a couple of adepts in the main base too. We have 19 adepts on the map at this point.
It's a lot of them, and he's keeping Elazer busy enough that, again, maybe he can make something work here. Waiting on that Dark Shrine to come through. That drone just became the Evo Chamber. The Evo Chamber actually dies, though, so that's actually an additional investment lost. These adepts already shading out after they trade with the Lings.
Yeah, I like the Evo blocks, but maybe if the adept count is this high. At the same time, the Warp Prism in the main base still trying to find a bit of damage. Yeah, I mean, the one big difference between this game and all the other games, though, is like that lair now, buddy, is done. You know, we had games where the lair didn't even start yet. As the Warp Prism is in a bit of danger, it's getting attacked from 2 queens at the same time. It does get recalled home just in time.
No, you're right. Having that layer up, right, there's just nothing that's really delayed at all for Elazer, right? It's just a much more comfortable situation following from this adept opener. And on top of that, MaxPax, his third base is much later than it has been coming down. Again, you invested into that Dark Shrine, so that's more of an investment you've made. Maybe that slowed down your Immortals a little bit. Again, we're just basically listing off things that all point towards Elazer being in a great position here in comparison to our earlier games, so looking good for him. He's obviously down a map, and he needs to win this to keep his DreamHack run alive. Yep.
Making his way up to 57 drones. We're going to pass the 60. Elazer obviously has plenty of free supply to work with. I like what MaxPax is doing with the one Dark Templar that he's just sending towards, I think, that base at 9. And I think he's just going to keep it there. I really like this because then, you know that your opponent is not up to 3 or 4 bases yet. And if it does happen, then you can do something about it. Unfortunately for MaxPax, Elazer is going up to 4 bases. It's just on the right side of his main.
Yep, over on that far right side, taking the top side of the map just in general here. Should have creep in front of it fairly soon as Elazer is going to receive this attack from MaxPax, which we've seen this attack a couple of times at this point in this series, and well, this time it really is. I mean, Ravagers are ready to go and all sorts. There are a few drones going down elsewhere. Maybe that's a bit of a distraction that you need, but these 2 adepts won't do anything. They cancel their shade. At the front, the adepts do get started. They pick up a queen, and they actually do commit to the shade. That feels like a horrible idea.
Yeah, I feel like this is almost the same as last game, right? Where you're like, okay, well, it didn't really matter, but it would have probably been better to keep it with the Immortals.
Yeah.
This time, my goodness, that was a close pickup. That's the next level hold pickup, as we do still find a few drones with the adepts, apparently, but that felt like a little bit of a donation. Of course, adepts don't skill that well, but was that really the way to get rid of 19 adepts?
I thought that corrosive ball was going to be inside the Warp Prism with how late that Immortal went in.
Yeah.
It was blows up from the inside or something. It was ridiculous. I could have sworn it connected. Disruptor's on the way. I mean, the one thing that MaxPax has got out of all of this is an equal work account. So for the moment, that's all right. But there's also just nothing stopping Elazer from droning now and to get into that better economy and just making sure that MaxPax is basically stuck here on the 3 bases and not allowing him off, onto the 4 base. So it just feels like you're going to be very stuck as MaxPax, and I still don't quite see where this game is going for him.
And because he sent that one Dark Templar into the natural, Elazer is now going up to 5 bases. And these are the little things where I would have liked to see that Dark Templar just kind of chill at 9 o'clock. Just to slow it down, just to give you an idea of when that's happening. And sure, Elazer can obviously send over an Overseer, but then you can maybe still save your DT. It's all the little things to prevent Jagannatha from happening all over again. Where MaxPax did do one thing tremendously well. And that is make sure that units never showed up in the natural in the main base. Was that a kill, Waddy?
I think it was indeed. Yep, Nexus is down on the Structures Lost tab, so yeah, not pretty. Disruptor's starting to do some damage. I mean, you need some Disruptor shots from Jagannatha to start bringing this one back, Roddy, so they better get to work and keep that work going for a while.
Now, of course, if Zerglings and Roaches make it into the main base or natural, we do have that defensive Dark Shrine, which could come in very handy. It could make it a little bit easier to deal with some of these run-bys, but it's just not looking all that good. One of the Disruptors was forced to be picked up as well, as it was about to land a really big corrosive ball on the Ravagers, but Elazer was on top of it. MaxPax didn't want to take the risk, probably feels like his back is up against the wall already, and losing a Disruptor would just make things a lot worse.
Disruptor shots go flying, and 5 drones go down again. It's an idea. DT here for a couple of moments, but that's also going to go down. He blinks aggressively to chase away this force in the bottom, which is going to be successful. There's MaxPax just going to try and defend this 4th base. Great force fields. I mean, these are the sort of pickups you need. 3 units that doesn't cost you anything, killing drones at the same time behind it. It's the right, steps in the right direction, Roddy.
Still losing a couple of drones, this time to a Dark Templar on the top side of the map, as that one will get cleaned up too. Want to be careful, of course, with this Prism. He drops the Disruptors, realizing that he cannot fire. But he had 3 Vipers on the way. You want to make sure you don't lose this Prism.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the kind of point at which these should be like the last couple of harassing Disruptor shots. The creep spread helping there a little bit. One more Disruptor shot fires, gets a Ling or 2. And that should be it. This time the Prism backs away, and like you say, if the Viper's out, this becomes a little bit scary to stick around. If MaxPax is aware of that, you should definitely be keeping it in mind. As I mean, out of everything that's happened this game, Roddy, I wasn't sure if MaxPax would ever get up to 4 bases, but he's made it there. And I know Elazer's kind of getting into a crazy good spot with his own base count, but I feel like if MaxPax can get maxed out, maybe it gives him, a best possible chance again compared to a game where we've just been kind of, singing his doom all game long.
Oh, absolutely. It's a playable game. I'm not in love with his position, but I wasn't in love with his position on Jagannatha either, and he managed to turn that into one hell of a game. As Elazer's going for his first Baneling attempt of the game, gets denied by these Stalkers. A lot of damage on that Nexus, something to keep in mind. Of course, shields are good, but wave shows up real soon. It could potentially be the end of that Nexus. I'm with you. I wouldn't hate something like a second Robo, or then maybe a Templar Archive, so we can either start feedbacking or have some more Archons. Because 4-base economy is quite serious for a Protoss, right? But it's just single Robo and gateways. And I feel like if you lose a fight, it's impossible to recreate a very powerful army.
Yep. Yeah, it's very tough to rebuild. I am surprised he hasn't built like double Robo or series, really. Maybe one time.
There we go. He has heard our prayers, Wadi, and I do like this decision because, if Vipers are out on the map, it's very possible that an Abductor or 2 are going to land. You could lose your Disruptors. You simply cannot be working with single Robo when you go up against the Elazer that's on all these bases.
Yep, no, absolutely. You need to have the reproduction. Like, usually you just don't even really talk about single Robo production so much in PvZ nowadays, but anyways, all fixed up now, but just in time for Elazer to start attacking. We do see an army on the left, an army on the right, and it's going to be MaxPax that will have to struggle to split his army up here. He's got Banes running into the 3rd base. He blinks in here to try and deal with this. He will protect most of the probes, but I mean, his naturals already being overrun, and of course the army is still looming on the left side to come back in a game.
Yep, I gotta say, MaxPax is handling this really well so far. I was like, at first, like, all right, the floodgates are open, yes, no. It's like, no, it kind of saves all the probes. Then he still kept the army at bay while this was going on. A couple of DTs are trying to make magic happen as these banelings looking for juicy connection. But my goodness, we can say whatever we want. He's on the money when it comes to saving these probes this game, Marty.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely minimizing this damage way better than I could have ever imagined, really. He's doing a fantastic job, and to sneak that DT in at the same time, right, get damage done himself. Again, MaxPax is playing a great game from a very rough position, so really showcasing just how excellent he has been lately.
Yep, it is important though for him to not take any more damage in the next minute. Obviously, Elazer is gonna try to make that happen. We can already see the setup on the right side. We see a parasitic bomb on the observer. That's disrespectful. I didn't even know you could do that.
Well, just fly, Roddy.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I've not really seen someone do it before, but I mean, it makes sense, I guess. Bane's gonna roll in again as our probes do evacuate, and I mean, all the stack defense is going down. I mean, that's a pretty big expense as well, right? Losing that stack defense, not something you're in a position to rebuild at all, and it just means that future attacks of Elazer are going to be that much more difficult to hold.
And there are some moments where we can now talk about like, oh, the maxed out army of the Protoss, if he can max out, it's going to be bigger than the maxed out army of the Zerg, because the Zerg has way more workers. It's not like Elazer is on 98 drones, so first of all, that's not that important. And second of all, Waddy, like maxing out is cool and all, but we're maxing out on Stalkers. These are not +3 carriers or something that can really make the difference. So it does seem that this game is heading more and more into Elazer's favor, if it hasn't gone for a long time. But it's obvious that MaxPax will not back down from a fight, and he's going to try to make the impossible happen.
They'll open in those Stalkers, but yeah, it's going to take something of a miracle to start cleaning out Broodlords and all sorts extra with the Stalker-only army. Stalkers and supporting Disruptors and Colossi. Has a lot of those, but again, they will only help so much, especially with Broodlords in play. Yeah, Vipers. Oh, bit of deja vu from that first game, right? Vipers going down before an important fight.
This was only 1 out of 3. Fortunately for Elazer, he's got 2 more. But one thing I definitely see kind of in favor of MaxPax is that he has the more mobile army, right? Okay, now we're getting a bunch of Archons, maybe not the most mobile unit, as it seems like he just wants to send it. He just wants to go ahead and end this game. Now, it's very important for Elazer not to lose his Broodlords. We've got 6. With this amount of Stalkers, Marty, do you believe in the Protoss Dream? Blinding Clouds going down, the Nova's not really getting the best connections yet. Now we can get a Viper. If these Stalkers get under the Broodlords, there is still a chance for MaxPax.
Absolutely. He's going to go for the blink now. He's going to get 1, 2 of them. The Banelings are, of course, here. They're meant to protect these Broods, stop the Stalkers from getting underneath, but the Stalkers are doing a great job of continuing in. Remember that a lot of the laser supply right now is reproducing units. As all the Broods go down, he's got a lot of units counterattacking as well. Okay, MaxPax might not be able to build much behind this, but he can maybe stop the reinforcements from joining up together. Maybe there's a way.
Yeah, it's gonna be very hard, but you're right. It's 80 army supply and a dream. It's not gonna be a whole lot more than that, as MaxPax's economy is in shambles. But he technically does have something that's good against everything that Elazer has. The only thing that would really be the end is if a lot of additional Broodlords finish up, and that's what Elazer's gonna try to do. But these 2 Broods are gonna get shut down. And now I think the other Broodlords could potentially fall too. MaxPax can't lose too many Stalkers doing this though, Wardy, because he cannot rebuild these Stalkers.
Yeah, he commits them into the Prism. Prism should have saved those last 4 Stalkers. Instead, only saves 1 of them. You can see MaxPax is desperate to find this army and hunt it down, but I mean, Elazer's not being able to rebuild too much recently either because he lost a good chunk of Overlords. He just has bases all over, and in theory, it's going to take MaxPax way too long to just shut down all the points of reproduction. And surely Elazer should be able to trade out with this. Disruptors, though, obviously, they can trade very efficiently.
Yep, what is going to be abducted? Apparently it's the Colossus. Do we get a kill on the Colossus? Yes, we do. I think Elazer is doing a great job in avoiding these Novas. That was not easy. There were 4 or 5 Disruptors to run into, and 2 Immortals and a Colossus. Like, yeah, he's got the economy, he had the units, but that could have still gone wrong. I think Elazer handled that fight very well.
Yeah, handled it very well, and MaxPax once again bringing a difficult game to a very exciting finish, but this one not quite as close as that game on Jagannatha. This should just be going in Elazer's favor. He's also jump on this now. The amount of reinforcements is just going to be way too darn high, and that's just going to be everything you need to shut this down and to take us to a game 5. Elazer going to keep his DreamHack hopes alive, and MaxPax will be forced to a final map here as well. Roddy, we're going to go to all 5 of these games. It's exciting, it's fun, it's exactly what we wanted and expected from this series. Let's see how it all wraps up in Game 5 after the break. Best series of the day, and it's going all the way to Game 5 as we expected it to, and just as it deserves to at this stage of the tournament. Top 8, fighting for top 6. These two have obviously, like you said, Roddy, they had such a similar run up to this point so far. It was a really good story. It was a good point. And now they're going to have, it does match them up well going into this as well, and they've matched up well going into this. They really did, it turns out to be a beautiful read,
I am just very happy that you called my story beautiful and said I made a good point, Roddy. That does me even more well than this amazing best of 5 so far. Let's get it, guys. Oxide as our decider map here to determine who can still dream about a top 4 finish in this tournament and represent Europe at the season finals, or it's gonna end right here when it made top 8, or both players made top 8. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of our Polish Zerg representing Ego Esports. It is Elazer.
And of course, that means down in the bottom left, we do have the red Protoss. He had match point once. Can he make it happen this time around? It is MaxPax.
Yeah, it really was written in the stars that this was going to be a 5-game series. If you look at their historic head-to-head, where first Elazer won 12 series in a row, 12-0. MaxPax, however, winning the last 3, but all of them being pretty close. The final one being a 4-3 in a best of 7. and then you look at their performance overall in this tournament, and these guys have lost 2 series in total, both of them, against 2 guys that are in the upper bracket. Rainer, Cyril, Clem, and Gabe are the only players in this entire tournament that were able to defeat Elazer and MaxPax. They won every other match and beat up on every other opponent that they were forced to face. Yeah, it was destiny that this was going to be a 5-game series.
Just like destiny. We go to Oxide for this final map, Roddy. What are we thinking here? What do you think we get out of MaxPax, and what do you think Elazer might do about it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's going to be double Stargate. I feel like this is an alright double Stargate map, and that should actually bring the feisty, aggressive Elazer that we've seen a lot in the past. He's a lot more confident, and he's a lot more solid in these macro games now. Knows when to tech up. I want to say he got a lot better with the spellcasters, and I do think, like there were so many things happening. The blinding clouds that Elazer dropped on the left side, right? That's not really final fight, but basically the game deciding fight, where we had the Broodlords for the first time. Those blinding clouds were so good. They kept the Broodlords alive for so much longer than I think they were supposed to stay alive. And I think he got a lot better with the Vipers overall. It's just he seems to forget about them sometimes. He loves them, Marty. It's just they're not always on his mind.
Yeah, they've just been hanging around here and there and flying over Stalkers a couple times, so something to watch out for. We're gonna see a Twilight again though from MaxPax, and I gotta say, I was expecting some glaives for this series. I was not expecting it to be such a common occurrence.
No, basically every game other than the 2K atmosphere, and that wasn't even really a game, right? Tempest, Tempest and Void Race just ended it.
Yeah, press the Tempest button. It's actually the GG button. Pretty nice.
All right, then I've got a question for you. Is this the one time where he actually goes for a very quick Dark Shrine follow-up as a kind of a curveball play in Game 5?
I would think it would be cool if he hadn't sort of done it last time just badly, right? Because he went Dark Shrine last time after the plays, but it was obviously everything was just so late that it didn't really work at all. It wasn't really impactful. I just wonder if that would maybe have it on Elazer's mind a little more, and so then MaxPax is a bit more like, I kind of did this, and even if that game was a bit of a disaster through and through, it's still something that I think lingers on your mind, right?
True. I took a look at the opening again of what MaxPax scouted, right, on light shit. I'm like, did we miss something obvious? And the only thing I can really say is that Elazer took a gas at 109, which is like 2 or 3 seconds quicker than they like to do it with their optimal macro opening. But it's actually very common for Zerg players to take their gas a couple seconds earlier when they were not able to take their natural, right? Because now they have to defend basically 3 bases from the very get-go. So just having Zergling speed a couple of seconds earlier often is what makes them feel comfortable. And yeah, I don't think that really justifies the 3-gate response that MaxPax went for.
Oh, I'm 100% with you. I really think the entirety of that last game was just scripted by that 3-gate opening. It didn't really lead into anything at the proper timings. Here we go with these Adepts, Roddy, as this time we're not close to a supply block or anything like that. Let's see what they can get done, as the first Roach is still yet to build in that production tab.
It's not gonna be easy for Elazer, that's for sure. One Queen very low on HP, dies immediately. The extra Adepts have shown up too. What's happening on the other side of the map? It's a lot of Zerglings counterattacking, and they are actually gonna get their way in. This is very annoying for MaxPax, because you don't want to be looking at home. You want to be looking at these Adepts that are getting on top of Queens. It's Chaos, Wardy. Who's winning?
I think it's going pretty well for Elazer, just for the fact he will kill a couple of probes. He's forced a couple of Adepts away. You can see that distraction, meaning that these 2 Adepts on target firing, and there just is more possible damage that isn't actually being gained. We warp back or shade back to the warp, and it just feels like Elazer has kind of calmed the storm in the first kind of, push, and that makes the rest of this so much easier to control.
Look at that one Roach in the natural that's super low on HP. That's an MVP Roach. That one Roach kept the entire natural safe against 2 Adepts. They were shooting at that Roach for the longest time, and when it was 1 hit away from dying, that's when Elazer sent it away, and the Adepts actually got cleaned up by Zerglings a bit later, while the Zerglings were first forced to fight elsewhere. Really well done by Elazer, who's now gonna morph that Roach into an honorary Ravager. As MaxPax does find a little bit of damage with the Prism follow-up, and he still has a lot of Adepts, let's not forget about that. Because this game, he didn't suicide them, it's just that Elazer's defense has been very good. Another Queen does fall, though.
Yep, another Queen shot down. I mean, this is the point where MaxPax does need to find some damage, these moments where it's not all the Adepts, but where just a couple of Adepts can still be so annoying. Wants to slow Elazer down as much as possible as he sets up into what is a much faster Robo Bay, I want to say, than we've been seeing. I know we've gone into Disruptors quickly, but usually we see some Immortals, you know, first. This time it's Robo Bay immediately before any Immortal production at all.
Yeah, no, that is very quick. Maybe just wants to get that very quick speed prism. Elazer's got Burrow on the way. Now, we did see him utilize Burrow a couple times on Jagannatha after the run buys. It was kind of cool, kept the army safe in the top left side. But he's also accidentally started it once or twice, and then he cancelled it. I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at here, Wadi. I don't know if it's for real or... I guess it is going to be for real. And then it makes me wonder, is he going to get tunneling close to? Because Elazer is making a lot of additional units at this point. That's giving me the idea that he just wants to make his way to the other side of the map as the Adepts shade into the main base while Zerglings are counterattacking. We are trading blow for blow over here.
Yeah, this is terrifying for MaxPax because he is going to lose these units, and because Elazer is just massing units and readying for the attack, I don't know what MaxPax is going to have left to defend. No Immortals. I just can't believe out of all the games he doesn't build Immortals, this is the one where Elazer's like, let's never drone and just build a chunk of units. Lair is done, so he's going to be safe in case there's DTs. And there shouldn't really be anything else to hold Elazer home anymore. This should turn into an attack, which I just don't know if MaxPax is going to be able to hold on.
Nope. This, I gotta say though, it's impressive that this Nexus is still alive. At one point I thought that Elazer had enough units to maybe gun it down. He did a lot of damage. But yeah, it's not all about the Zerglings. It's a lot about the Roaches and Ravages that are gonna show up here too. I almost wish that Elazer would have waited a split second so that Nexus could finish up and then he could kill it. But I guess getting a cancel is already a big victory.
Yeah, just keeping your opponent back on 2 bases seems to be all he's really needing right now. Disruptors on the way, so Elazer's not going to try and, you know, do anything crazy like attack into those Disruptors up that natural ramp. That does at least give MaxPax the chance to get 2 Disruptors and perhaps Blink Stalkers along with it. So we'll see if there's, you know, a way to make magic happen with this. But of course, Elazer's working off of a 4th base now. Wow. Infestation Pit's on the way. All of this tech is just coming through. Our MaxPax is, well, you know, still needing to wait for tech, basically.
Yep, and this is where I think Elazer is so damn good at realizing he's like, actually, we've got like a minute now. This game has been wild, it's been hectic. You know, I've been swinging for the fences, you've been swinging for the fences, but now I know it's gonna slow down for a solid 70 or 80 seconds. The only thing I need to do is keep track of that prism. He just fired up like 20 drones like it was nothing. And yeah, his economy is starting to look really good. Because let's not forget, while he was attacking the first time, he was actually doing that of 38 drones, which in a way is like, mate, you better get a cancel or a kill on the Nexus, otherwise this game is going to be dicey. As MaxPax does find a couple drones, but yeah, this doesn't hurt that much, guys, if you're sitting on a 17 worker advantage, and that's what Elazer has been sitting on.
Yeah, those drones just pop back up and Elazer barely even notices it, right? It's it's something, but Elazer's kind of fine with it and just going straight to Hive, Balin speed, just teching up. And see if his Queen may be in some trouble again. MaxPax doing what he can with the Disruptors, and boy, does he need to. Feels like it's been like that a couple times throughout this best of 5.
Yep, but let's not forget in these games where MaxPax was behind, we are not doing good. Like, well, gosh, it's close, but actually it's not close because he lays out 6 bases and we have been lying to you. No, these games really did get close. And if it wasn't for those great blinding clouds on Lightshade that made the Stalker fight less than ideal, or if it wasn't for maybe slightly overcommitting on Jagannatha when he was super all-in, but maybe exposing his army too much, there is a chance that MaxPax would have won those games. No matter how badly he was outmined, no matter how far behind he was, he really did make it close. So I still believe that this game is not over yet, even though at this point, anyone in his right mind would favor Elazer's position, as Miko is running away with it, but we know that it ain't over till it's truly over between these two.
Yeah, no, it feels like MaxPax almost plays his better game once he falls behind or something, you know, which I guess that makes him very terrifying when you consider what he can do when he gets ahead. He's played some fantastic games today from bad positions, and, you know, yeah, we haven't painted the picture of, oh, you know, this is doable for MaxPax. It has been kind of grim for MaxPax multiple times, and then we end up shouting and screaming and being all excited about the final fights, because that's what he can do to these games.
This is different. And I don't actually like it, Wadi. There are 2 Stargates being built at this point for MaxPax. We just haven't had the economy, right? We didn't have the infrastructure or the army to support this kind of stuff. MaxPax needs to put all his resources into just being able to survive like he has been surviving in some of these other games. Like tower up, cannon up. Yeah, he's getting a cannon now and it's natural as I say so, but I feel like he needs way more of that. Then he needs the investment of double Stargate at this point.
No, I have no idea what double Stargate's gonna add for him as Bane's crash into a few initial adepts. Elazer's army kind of thinking about taking a fight, ends up just backing it up for now. Disruptors are again on the hunt, Roddy, and really trying to find a couple of kills if at all possible, but not this time around.
Okay, so he's gonna go for a couple of Void Rays because you can say that maybe the anti-air is not out in full force and there was 5 queens, but yeah, I feel like Elazer could just spam Vipers and spam parasitic bombs, and that could already make things complicated. I mean, sure, if MaxPax can get 6 or 8 Void Rays out, then all of a sudden that looks great, but that's not something he needs to worry about. He needs to worry about surviving, and I just don't see him survive here. Nothing to keep these Colossi alive. All of them get abducted. And sure, the Void Rays show up, but I'm afraid it's a day late and $1 short, as Elazer is finding all the damage he could dream of and a whole lot more.
Wow, it looks as though Elazer's going to crash through for the victory right here, and MaxPax, I can't quite get over the game. He decides not to build those Immortals as the game Elazer just comes across the map without droning any further, right? And just makes his life so difficult, but that's the best of 5, and we're just going to be seeing Elazer coming on through. Clean this up, the last disruptor shot of the series gets a couple units. That, Roddy, is going to be the end of MaxPax. What a great run, though. Top 8 is, of course,